Hi guys, this is Shannon from Reptile Way and welcome back to our channel. Today we've got an exciting build video for you. It's ancient ruin themed and it's taking inspiration from Lord of the Rings Middle Earth, which I think is a super cool concept, especially if you want to get into ruins. I've got Gimli being queen of the castle up there, helping us model this stunning piece. But we're going to actually show you how we went about building this, and this is a really good design to use because you can make it larger, you can make it smaller, you can change the dimensions to suit so many different species of reptiles. But anyway, let's dive into this video. First of all, we're starting off with drawing the stencil out on these insulation foam boards that you can get from Bunnings. So we're drawing out the main sort of panel of this ruin. So this is the sort of front panel that has the old big doorway. So if you imagine it, it'll be the nice grand entrance into this building castle type design. And where I did get my inspiration for this particular build and the ideas of where this stencil came from, I guess, was Lord of the Rings Middle Earth themed, which was a great theme. And yeah, just people's takes on it, the movies. Yeah, there was quite a bit of inspiration behind it. So yeah, I think, to be honest, Lord of the Rings, and even if you just watch the movies, but even the pictures that are on there, great inspiration for sort of this style of build when it comes to ruins and I guess a bit more darker ruins and more dramatic. Now for this particular stencil, you could use rulers and things like that if you want to be really straight, really precise. But personally, yeah, I didn't use rulers or anything. It didn't really bother me because it's going to get carved out and it's not going to be perfect, doesn't have to be. The bit that I'm working on now is right at the top. So this is where the basking platform will be, but I'm just creating these sort of front pillars where it looks like the building's been ripped away or has fallen down. Again, just to give it that ruin sort of theme. But once we've done, I guess, the stencil, time to cut it out. So I'm using a knife to cut out the main part of it and just to put it in more a manageable size for when it comes to using the hot wire cutter. Now, I am using a hot wire cutter that I did get off Amazon, I think like a year ago. So some of the attachments are quite old, as you're going to see in this video. One of the attachments did break. Of course, it had to do it on a video. But yeah, you can do this build, I guess, without a hot wire cutter. You can just use a knife. It will be a lot more time consuming, take a little bit more elbow grease, a little bit more patience to do. And it may be a little bit trickier to, I guess, get the precise edges and cuts into the rock like what a hot wire cutter can do. But it doesn't mean you can't do it with a knife. So if all the money you've got to you right now, you can just use a knife, or you just don't want to use hot wire cutters or whatever, yeah, go for the knife approach. That's totally fine. I'm just going for the laziest, easiest, quickest option, I guess. But I do quite enjoy using hot wire cutters. They are so relaxing. But now I'm cutting out the archway bit. So with this particular front panel and with a lot of the design, you've got to think, you want to give it depths. You want to make it look three-dimensional. So that's why I'm sort of making it not look flat. Now this attachment here, so you can, when you get the hot wire cutters and you buy it online, I got the pack that had all these attachments in it. So, and that's one of them. This is the one that breaks in this build. So I only use it up until a certain stage and then I don't use it anymore. That's because it's broken. and as well it's just old. I've used it that much, and you can see it's bending right now because it's not heating up as much, well, or it's taking longer to cut through the foam and all of that. So I do know what I'm doing. It's just, yeah, this particular attachment is not looking so crash hot right now. But yeah, when you do buy the hot wire cutters, getting the packs with different attachments for a little bit extra money, I think does make your builds go a long way, because it just gives you a lot more freedom, especially if you want to do ancient ruin themed for lots of your enclosures. I highly recommend it. And also when you are carving into this foam, especially the areas where you want the detailing, you want to really, I guess, overcarve, because if you think about it, when you're going to put the grout on, grout's really good for filling in gaps, filling in holes, covering cracks, all that type of thing. So you don't want the grout to take away from all your hard work. So when you're carving, whether you're using a hot wire cutter or a knife, do it even more so than what you see me do in this video, and it just makes the grouting stage a little bit easier. When you carve into it, it's just going to pop that much more. So just keep that in mind when you are doing this particular stage. Just imagine you're going to have 3 to 5 layers of grout going over this bad boy, so you still want it to stand out. And also when it comes to ruins as well, just doing the brickwork, and I don't have a lot of brickwork in here because I was a little bit lazy, but you can do way more brickwork than this, and I've seen some other designs, and look at designs that aren't necessarily for reptiles. There's some great ideas on there. But yeah, the bricks I think add to the build and make it look more ruiny themed, and having the archways and the big brick pillars, I guess. But now we've swapped attachments. I'm using the main hot wire cutter to again carve out gaps into this archway. That's just going to help out when it comes to the grouting and all of that sort of stuff. But this build is quite fitting, because obviously the first reptile I got was a bearded dragon named Gimli, and named after one of my favourite characters off Lord of the Rings. So it was so cool to actually do this build. I don't know why it's taken me so long to do a build like this. But yeah, it was quite good because the movies, I am a bit of a nerd when it comes to Lord of the Rings. Biggest fan of the movies. When I was a kid, actually, my dad, he read all the books, and then I would go to the movies with him to watch every single one that came out. So that was pretty cool. And it's just done so well. So if you want inspiration for scenery for your build, watch those movies, because the sets that they were on were incredible. But now I'm creating the rest of the structure for this ruin. So we finished the front panel, which does take a bit of time, as you can tell just by this video. But yeah, now we're creating the side walls. And what's great is you don't have to be perfect. You don't need any tape measures really out for this, any rulers or that type of thing, because it's supposed to look not perfect. So again, this is something that you may have to try really hard, because your, I guess, brain wants to make things perfect, make things straight. It's like when you're doing the natural rock features. If it looks perfect, it's not going to look like a ruin. Or if it looks perfect, if you're doing a rock feature and everything's so straight, so symmetrical, it's not going to look like a natural rock feature that nature has produced. So yeah, same sort of concept with the ruins. If you make a mistake, sometimes it might actually make the ruin look pretty good. So what I'm using to glue all these pieces together to create the ruin, I'm just using some aquarium grade silicone, and this I find is really good for sticking the pieces together. and it holds quite well. It's quite strong. If you use other things like the Gorilla Super Glue in the gel form, it doesn't really hold these sheets well. So I find the best thing is this to hold the sheets together. And also just take your time with this. Yeah, make sure you get it into a spot that you want, because again, these are the bones of the build. Now I'm creating like a sort of front step for this particular piece, and I'm just using bits of foam sheets that have been cut off from other sections. So you can see I've carved that front step out already. Now I'm sort of cutting out or deciding the size of you can say the roof of this build, but it'll be like a basking platform area. So I'll put that on later. But now I'm creating the steps that are going to go wind up to the basking platform. And the only reason why I'm using this sort of packing white foam sheets is because that's what I had available at home. So you can stick to the Bunnings foam sheets if you want. You could even do this out of spray foam as well. So it's totally up to you what you want to use. I'm just trying to use everything I have on hand, so it's going to cost me a little bit less money to build this piece. But yeah, I find the packing foam sheets worked quite well because they're thin and they actually create nice little steps already, just with each of the layers staggered. But I'm just sort of creating enough layers to reach the top of that basking platform, and this makes a heck of a lot of mess. This is another stage that I didn't really enjoy. It was mainly just this particular part, because you can see all those little white bits, they were everywhere. I had to get brooms and go under the furniture, vacuum up. And I don't want to do this outside, because you don't want all that white plasticky stuff going outside either, because that's where little animals are, little precious reptiles that you guys love so much, they could end up eating it. So definitely do this indoors so you can sweep it all up and put it into a bin. But I'm just gluing again each layer by each layer with that silicone. Now, apologies for the camera quality right now. I was using natural light, and in Darwin we were getting like, it was sort of cloudy, and then the sun came out, and then it was cloudy again, and the weather was just all over the shop, so my camera wasn't really enjoying it. But you can still sort of see what I'm doing. So I'm carving out the sort of steps for this particular build now, and I'm using that hot wire cutter, which works amazingly, especially for this stuff. It cuts through it easier than the insulation foam sheets from Bunnings. So yeah, quite nice to use the hot wire cutter on. When it comes to spray foam, the hot wire cutter doesn't go so well with all spray foams, so just keep that in mind. If you want something that you can cut the detailing into, might be better off going with the sheets for this sort of ruin theme. But now I'm using that aquarium grade silicone. We're going to pop the lid on this bad boy for the basking spot. And I was getting a bit excited now because it's starting to look like a ruin, but too perfect. So I got the hot wire cutter, cut that section off, and now we're going to create, I guess, the rest of the ruin. So if you imagine you once had this beautiful castle or magnificent building, and through wars or through just thousands of years, it's worn it away, it's fallen down. So we've got the main feature, which was the feature we've just finished, that has that beautiful detailing on the front panel. And now we're going to stagger down the build. So it's going to stagger down and fall away even more the further out we go. So I'm just using the same techniques to create, I guess, the detailing in this particular wall. So using that hot wire cutter to create all these beautiful features. And again, the hot wire cutter is just a relaxing tool to use. So if you do have the money and you're not doing your build straight away and you can wait for it to get delivered, I think it's definitely worthwhile. And you can see now how we're staggering it. So we're staggering this build down, as I mentioned before, to look like it's falling away over time. Feel free to also write some suggestions in the comments of what you think we should do some future builds on, themes, that type of thing. It's always good to get some inspiration from you guys. So yeah, also what channels you find useful for builds too. I've got a few of my go-to channels. There's lots of good YouTube content out there that can help you with your builds. So that's really good. And yeah, in the comments, help one another out with ideas. Always great. But if you do have, like if you do actually do this sort of ruin build, and even change the design and do things that you think may improve the build or suit your animal, feel free, send us some pictures through to our Reptile Way Facebook page. I would love to see your designs. I love getting ideas from people from all walks of life. A good resource that I do go on to is the Facebook DIY groups. There's so many DIY reptile enclosure Facebook groups out there. And it's really cool to see people who are saying, oh, this is my first build, this is the design. And there are some great ideas out there. So I don't always just take inspiration based on how long somebody's been doing it for. You know, there's some amazing talent out there from people who have been doing it for so many years, or it's their first go. So definitely get onto those Facebook groups if you're looking for some inspiration as well. But yeah, send us through your builds and your designs on Facebook. Yeah, give us some inspiration. It's always good to have. Now you can see again, we've now created another wall, and you can start to see this staggered now. Now, the reason why I'm doing this particular slope this way, using these, I guess, packing foam sheets, that's what I had available at home. So I just put a whole bunch of those sheets together, silicone them all together, and now I'm just using the hot wire cutter to cut it out into a manageable slope that something like a bearded dragon or a snake can easily climb up. It's going to give them texture and things like that. But again, you don't have to do the design exactly how I'm doing it. My design was, I guess, based on the materials I had at home. But this is it all carved out, carving process finally done. I did add some more broken off walls and boulders and rocks and things that you'll see later on that isn't in this particular bit of video there, but that's what it's starting to look like. So the next step after this will be making this structure stronger. So, and apologies, I was doing this late at night. So I'm doing the spray foaming, and I'm spray foaming sections that I want to strengthen. So all the sections where I've silicone pieces together, I want to strengthen that for when the grouting process goes on and when you're going to pick this piece up so it's not just going to snap into pieces. But you want to carve all that, I guess, sort of shiny coat off the spray foam. But the next morning, I didn't carve it all out that night, but the next morning I did notice that it is not level. The spray foaming sort of shifted it a bit, so I've just put some, I guess, some foam sheets towards that left-hand side to even it up. But now we're going to carve all the shiny coat off every single bit of spray foam, just so the grout is going to stick to it a lot better and it's not going to flake off. But the carving is now complete, so it's now time for the messy grouting stage. But I always like to flip my builds over and start from this side and yeah, then flip it back over afterwards. But I've created some support in there as well when you flipped it over. And I'm pointing to the hard to reach places there. So we're going to grout those hard to reach spots first, and then you grout the bits that are closest to you, and this is just going to prevent you from getting grout on your clothes. But we're going to use a thick consistency of grout, okay, almost like a pancake thick consistency. This is going to fill in all the air holes of that spray foam. It's going to add strength, so you can see there it's all been completed. And I do like to use paint brushes for me personally to spread the grout all over rather than gloves in my hand. I just think a paintbrush works a little bit better. But you can see this thick consistency of grout is so good for filling in all those gaps. But this sort of stage does take a lot more grout because obviously you're filling in gaps. But with the weight of the grout, I've actually just made sure my supports, and I've increased the support because that section is getting heavier. But now, because the grout of the bits that I was just doing before, it's thick consistency, it's taken a while to dry. So whilst it's drying, I thought let's do the sort of other bits of areas that I can grout. So with this front panel and all the detailing bits, I didn't actually use a thick pancake consistency grout. I used a slightly thinner grout so that I could sort of get all this detailing. And so I'm going to use thinner consistency of grout, but maybe a few more layers instead. But when you get to this stage, you can really start to see it taking shape. So this is when I started, getting excited and being like, oh, this may actually look okay. So now we're getting to the final layers of grout, and you may need between 3 to 5 layers of grout for this particular build, depending on how many cracks you're getting and all that. But that's pretty much most of the grouting done for all the bits I can sort of access and do easily when it's upside down. And because I was still waiting for the underneath bits to dry, so that it being upside down bits, some of the bits were taking a bit longer before I flipped it over, I thought, okay, let's start carving. So we'll start carving into this front panel to add all the detailing. And when it comes to the carving, you want to wait for the grout, I guess, to be almost dry, but it's a bit damp to the touch, and that is going to be the best time for carving, because if you carve too early when it's really wet, it's all just going to flake off. Or if you leave it too late and when it's dry, you might as well carve into rock. Also, what's really good when you are carving is to have like a somewhat large paintbrush. So once you're carved into the grout, you can sort of easily brush it away. So you can see exactly where you've carved. So that's another useful tool. Make sure it's a clean new paintbrush, so you're not going to get any particles of anything else in there that you don't want. And all these steps, they can be quite time consuming. Don't worry, I understand completely, but it is going to make this build look amazing, especially once you've finished it. All these little steps are quite important to get a somewhat realistic ruin build. So yeah, definitely worthwhile, worth the effort. And when you are carving, you're literally just following the indentation in your piece that is already there. You're just accentuating it a little bit. So yeah, just following your build when it comes to carving, following the lines that you can already see there. You can carve in some new stuff, add some cracks to make it look worn. If you really find it hard, I guess, to do things by memory as well, make sure you've got your reference pictures on hand when you are carving to make it look more natural. If you do struggle with, I guess, things like that, just going from memory, I still use reference pictures and that type of thing when I'm building or even sketching. Yeah, they really do come in handy. And also keep in mind, this is a messy, messy process, the carving. You're going to find all the little bits everywhere, all over your floor. So I do actually have a sheet on the floor for when all the little bits fall onto the floor, so it's just easier to clean up. But yeah, it does get quite messy. So yeah, when it comes to the grouting and the carving, they're probably not my favourite stages of the build, just because of how messy it can get. I like a clean space. And so yeah, when there's lots of bits on the floor and I don't leave it, I'm constantly vacuuming up when I do these builds. But yeah, I think that's why it's probably not my why it's probably my least favourite part of the build, just for the messy factor. But you guys may enjoy it. If you do have a certain part of the build that you enjoy the most, feel free to write in the comments. But now we've flipped the build over, and we're grouting the rest of the build that we couldn't grout when it was flipped over. So we again do anywhere from 3 to 5 layers. I started off with a thick pancake consistency to fill in all those gaps, especially up the steps, and then I got thinner and thinner as I went along. Because as well, when you're doing thick pancake consistency on things like the steps, it is quite normal to get cracks once that first layer dries. That's okay. When you do the second and third layer, you won't get those cracks. You're going to fill those cracks in. So yeah, but that's just personally how I go about it, and I've been, going about it that way for years, and it seems to have worked, and the builds are still holding up today, so that's great. And now we're getting back into carving, so carving out more detailing in the rock, and again, just follow your build, follow what's sort of already there, and just, I guess, exaggerate the gaps, cracks, that type of thing. And you can see we're starting to get there with the carving. I didn't just want to leave, I guess, the basking platforms just sort of bare and basic. I wanted to add, I guess, like an evil decaying touch. Like it almost looks like the veins of the building. So you'll see once we get to the painting stage how we sort of make those bits that we carved on top sort of pop. But again, we are continuing with the carving. I think this video is probably one of the longest build videos I've done. I think it must be up there with the wardrobe conversion build, that's for sure. And especially with this slope was quite fun to carve into, because yeah, you really could go with the build. There was, so much different levels in that particular build, how it sloped. So that was really fun, that particular section, sort of carving into that. Now we're doing, I guess, the bricks, the ruins, the things that are going to be scattered on the floor in your enclosure. So this was a wall piece that I didn't show you before when we had all the foam carved out. This was a bit of an afterthought. So carving that out as well. But now all the carving is done, complete. Yay, such a messy stage. I can't wait to get the vacuum out and clean up this mess. But definitely worthwhile. You can see all that amazing detailing. That really does make it seem like a ruin. So now that we've done this, we're going to put on a movie, Lord of the Rings marathon. You guessed it. Have to do that for this particular build. And we're going to do the painting stage. So we're using acrylic safe paints. Now I pretty much just stuck to black and white. So simple. Really good colours to work with, especially if you're not that confident with paint. Doing sort of a black and grey theme, really, really easy to do. Now this particular painting style I'm using, I haven't really used this before because normally with my builds that you'll see when I do the rock features, I get the black acrylic paint, put it in a spray bottle and spray with water and spray it over the build and let that seep into the cracks. But with this build, I really wanted to accentuate the dark cracks in the build and make it look, I guess, real sort of, you know, evil and dark and a bit more theatrical than my normal builds. But boy, this is when you got to trust the process, because when I was doing this particular stages with the black paint, I was like, oh my God, this looks like a kid has done this. This looks terrible. And I thought I pretty much stuffed the build up doing this technique. But keep in mind, when you do the dry brushing, like what we've started now with a grey colour, once you get into the dry brushing and you start with that, and then you do more dry brushing, more detailing, and then you get to the waterproofing stage, the waterproofing actually dulls all this and blends it as well. So keep that in mind. It's not gonna, the colours or the black isn't gonna pop as much by the time you get to the waterproofing stage. So yeah, that's where trust the process, trust your build really comes into play, because yeah, I was thinking I really stuffed this up. What a shame, because I put a lot of time and effort into this build up until now. But I guess that's the fun of building, isn't it? You just try new techniques. If it works, it works. That's great. If it doesn't, you paint over it and you start again. So at the end of the day, when you try new things, what's the worst that can actually happen? Now, you did hear me mention dry brushing. So when I do talk about dry brushing, the technique to do is, now that we're doing this sort of grey colour, you want to wipe most of the paint off your brush and then you sort of brush over the piece, and that's what's called dry brushing. So you don't want to ever add water or anything like that, because it's not going to look like this. It's not going to bring out the texture of the grout that you've done. So yeah, don't add any water at this stage at all. And we're continuing on with dry brushing, and again, we're just doing different tones of greys, darker, a little bit lighter. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do section by section. So I sort of did a bit on the front panel, so now I'm going to move around to the side, to the steps, work on that to the same stage the front panel is at with the painting, and then work my way around the whole build like that. And then once most of, I guess, the painting is done, then with the whole build I can add the final dry brushing, so the lighter greys and things over the entire piece together. So it's good to start off with section by section, like what you can see I'm doing here. But when it comes to using the black paint for that detailing, that did take a while. So doing all those lines and getting into the cracks with the black paint, that is quite time consuming. That's why it's great to set this up in front of your TV and maybe watch some movies or TV series. And you can see again, we're doing another section. So starting off, going in with that black paint for the detailing. Do that first. And this is also sped up, as you can probably tell. So it's not going to be this quick at all. And there we're all doing the cracks in the sidewall. Oh, I love how that looks. It, again, looks like the veins of the building, and it makes it look really dark, I think that. But yeah, we also made sure we filled in the bricks so it looks a bit more three-dimensional. But now we're getting into the other parts of it again, continuing on with our black paint for all that detailing. Now we're going back in with the dry brushing. using somewhat of a darkish grey to start off with. So I generally go darker to start off with, then you know, you add the lighter touches, and you can go back and forth. You can go, you know, darker dry brushing to lighter. Oh, wait, that needs to be a bit darker. And yeah, just sort of go on how it looks to you. And you can see at this stage, you definitely don't want to leave the piece like that. It's not, well, for me, it's not looking visually great, but this is still the early stages. So yeah, keep going. And as well, I do get a few comments of people thinking, oh, I could never do, you know, a build like that, or, you know, I'm not DIY or crafty. It really doesn't take much DIY or craftiness to do this. And I think most people could do this, again, if you just break it down to those steps, follow the steps, take your time, don't rush, and try have some fun with it. That's also pretty important, and you'll be surprised the things you can make. And it's a good positive way to spend your time, especially if you're at home a bit, or you might not want to go out and spend a lot of money, or you're trying to find more positive things like sort of not going out and drinking all the time. Great way to spend your time. But anyway, now we're going in with the lighter dry brushing. So we're using really light greys and whites, and we're going in over the entire build with this to make it look like the wind's been ripping at it, the rain, it's worn, it's been there for thousands of years, and it really does add that nice texture. And when you're going in with this lighter colours of really light greys and whites, you're hitting all those really raised surfaces. So you're not going to go down into the deep cracks where the black is. You're just lightly brushing over the top to get those raised areas. And now we're doing the waterproofing. So we're using a clear pond sealer to do this. I flipped it over because again, same with the grouting, best to do the bottom, underneath parts, all that stuff sort of first that you can reach when it's flipped over like this. And then once you've done, I'd say 3 to 5 coats of this. It recommends a minimum of 3 coats. I think I do about 5. And then sometimes on the surfaces like that basking area, that could be a great pooping spot or a great spot to drop food, you can do more layers. But there we go, there's all the waterproofing done, all complete. And it does add a bit of shine to it, but you can see it's blended everything a lot more. It's not as poppy out as what it was, but this is my favourite part. This is setting up the whole build for our photo shoot, for our video, to show you guys what we've done, and also to eventually get the animals out and have fun on it. Now, these fake plants I did get from Spotlight. If you're in Australia, they've got the best variety, unless you've got another cool store near you that has amazing fake plants. If you do, write it in the comments to help other people out. I'm not gluing them into place as such because I don't know whether I'm going to sell it or what I'm going to do with it. To glue it, you can use the aquarium grade silicone, or you can use the Gorilla Glue, but a gel form. That works really good. So if you did want to have fixed plants, but it does depend on the species of animals you're going to have with this build, whether you want fake plants. You can even have a bioactive setup. But here we go, we've got our little photo shoot going. Gimli, the star. This is sort of why I wanted to go with this theme. She's named after Gimli from Lord of the Rings, so perfect to have her in this video. And you can see amazing basking platform up there, lots of space, and easy for her to climb down too. It was sort of first thing in the morning, so it was taking her a little bit of time to wake up, and this was after a starved day. So guys, she does not normally get this many bugs, and she hasn't had bugs for a little bit anyway. And she did just have a vet appointment the other week, and she had actually lost weight, because with Gimli it's really hard to control her eating because she lives in an outside enclosure and she eats the wild bugs. So tell me now how to control her weight. But yeah, that's good old Gimli. She's doing quite well. But here we go. This is to show you what it looks like if you were to have a snake on this piece. This is Diglett, our black-headed python. And Diglett, I think, actually enjoyed it more than Gimli, this piece. It was so hard to get Diglett off after the filming finished. Diglett just wanted to stay in there. It was exploring everywhere, popping out of every little crack, every little doorway. It was definitely cute to see Diglett exploring this. And check out, amazing for photos. If you're a very visual person and you like to take photos of your reptile, but you want something that might be nice to put on your social medias, that type of thing, and this style of build is really, really cool for that. Yeah, Diglett decided to just stay in this position for a good 5 minutes, which was pretty odd. So thank you so much, guys, for watching this video, and I'd just like to say a big thank you to all the subscribers you know, on our channel, and the beautiful kind comments you leave, and even questions asking for advice. It's been so awesome interacting with you, and you've helped grow this channel, where we actually received our first paycheck yesterday, which was great. But if you did like the video, hit the thumbs up, hit subscribe to be made aware of future content, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.